Definitely one of the more interesting weeks of the year from a racing and betting perspective is ahead of us. Goodwood and Galway, 5 days, Tuesday to Saturday at Goodwood on the Downs. They're really high quality stuff. And 7 days at Galway as well. Bit of a marathon over at Ballybrit there. And two really unique tracks, actually. So you can find horses often come back and run well year in, year out. And not just that, but over at Galway, you often find them run well more than once in the week as well, which is always a profitable angle for the Galway festival. Here at Which Bookie, we'll be previewing both meetings, mainly Goodwood, with 5 video previews 2 days before each daily meeting, as it were, before or just after declaration, should I say. And Galway will add in a few little pointers as well as we go through the week. But please don't forget to check out the daily selections, either the night before or the morning of each race day at Goodwood and Galway this week. So we'll start with the Tuesday at Goodwood, should I say, day one. And we've got the Chesterfield Cup over 10 furlongs. Really competitive handicap with plenty of classy performers in here. But it's 2 horses that ran belters in the race last year that I think are definitely worth focusing on here. Take Heart, who was the winner of the race last year, has run with credit for Johnny Murter and looked like he'd been teed up for this race again. Interesting that he's moved to David Menuisier, obviously local trainer. That could be something of a bit of a plan, I think, for Take Heart to come back here. He travelled into the race so well last year from a wide draw. He's got a wide draw against all 15 of 18, but he was able to defy it without any real doubt last year. I do think he might have a bit more to do to fend off Tony Montana, though, this year as well. I'm going to back the both of them, Take Heart and Tony Montana, but Tony Montana is a horse who travelled really nicely into the race in the pocket behind the front runners last year, and then just had to wait for a bit longer to get a run than the jockey would have ideally liked. And then again in the final half a furlong or so, he was just stopped for a bit of momentum as well. So I think he's value for a little bit further and could easily have been really competitive with Take Heart in the closing stages of that race last year. So they're the two definitely to back, I think, in that opening race on the Tuesday at Goodwood, the 120. Take Heart and Tony Montana, both around about the 12 to 1, 14 to 1 mark. Looks a good, real good each way play, both of those, in a race where we know they absolutely handle the course and distance, which can count for plenty, as I said, at Goodwood. On to the 155, 2-year-olds in action here, vintage stakes over the 7 furlongs. Plenty of intriguing runners here, potential improvers. Obviously, Dorset for Aidan O'Brien is the chosen one of his entries. There's a couple of horses that have raced once and won cosily and could be anything. The likes of Laureate Crown, Gama Sutra and Goodwood Galaxy are of interest. Zavatari and Do or Do Not are of real interest, representing decent form lines this year as well. But it's Andab that I think is potentially the most interesting horse in here at the prices. He's 15 to 2 or 8 to 1 for Joseph O'Brien. Struggled to find a horse that Joseph O'Brien has sent over for this particular race. So it's fascinating that he comes here for a 7 furlong Group 2. His first try at the 7th furlong, which is interesting for me because he's a brother to Victoria Road, who of course fared with real credit when stepping up in trip in his juvenile season as well. And he was a really good 4th, I thought, in the Coventry on the stand side group that day, which I think the more I look at it, that race, perhaps the stand side wasn't the place to be. So the fact that he was just about to run down the other leader on the stand side in the closing stages of that race makes me think that the extra 7th furlong here is going to be a real benefit to Andab in that vintage stakes at 155 on Tuesday. Like I said, 15 to 2, 8 to 1 or something like that about Andab could be of real interest there. Onto the 230 Lennox Stakes over the same course and distance. Didn't really have a strong opinion, I must admit, here in one of the feature races of the day, Group 2. Should be run at a decent tempo with the likes of Quinault in their audience witness stand. And that could well suit Kinross. He likes coming through off a strong pace, but he's priced accordingly. So possibly best to leave that race alone as things stand. Goodwood Cup, again, probably not too much of a punting race, to be fair, in terms of where the prices are currently sat. But it's fascinating that Aidan O'Brien chucks 2 darts at this. Obviously, Illinois was always going to be, you would imagine, the main one. He's the sort of stayer, the incumbent stayer after Kyprios was retired and was second in the Ascot Gold Cup. But he's also chucked Scandinavia in here after his real resounding win at Newmarket in the Bahrain Trophy a couple of weeks ago. So fascinating that Scandinavia is running against his stablemate. He's too good just to be considered as a pacemaker. So Perhaps for those of that particular disposition, taking the bigger price about Scandinavia at around about the 3-1 mark wouldn't be the worst idea in the world in the Goodwood Cup. Either way, it's going to be a fascinating race. You would imagine at 3:45, and we're now on the straight course at Goodwood, 5 furlong handicap, sprint handicap, fast and furious here, and a horse who has been absolutely scuppered by draws on his last couple of occasions, but still run belters, is Red Orange for Clive Cox at Royal Ascot, and then at the big Ascot meeting a couple of weeks ago as well. It turned out that he was drawn absolutely away from where the main action was, but was beaten less than a length on both occasions there, Red Orange. On this occasion, he's got stall 18 of 22, which generally on the straight course at Goodwood, the closer to the stands rail you are, generally the place to be. Not always, but it's certainly no negative, you would imagine. There's plenty of pace on, drawn high as well. So it could be the day that Red Orange sort of finally has everything to click into place. He's priced up as if that's possibly the case, though. He's around about 5-1 joint favourite as things stand with Adrestia, who of course won at Royal Ascot. Chagrin is also of interest as well, another horse that loves a big field, strong pace scenario. He could easily be a big player here, Chagrin. So a couple to be of interest, certainly in that 3:45 at Goodwood, the 5 furlong sprint handicap. The remainder of the card at Goodwood is tricky. Valuable Maiden, and then a couple of handicaps to close the card. Possibly not too appealing at this stage from a betting perspective, but as ever, check the website whichbookie.co.uk the night before and the morning of those particular races. And I'll just add in, having gone through Goodwood for the day one card on Tuesday, just a couple of thoughts real quickly for Galway on Monday, day one, if you get to watch this video before those races are obviously played out. In the 5:40, which is a handicap hurdle over 2 miles, Raki on first start for Willie Mullins has been put in very, very short, and it might well potentially give us a price about last year's winner, Son of Hypnos, who is bidding to do the same, obviously 12 months on. He's got the blinkers back on after a couple of spins so far over hurdles. He won the race so easily last year that you've got to imagine this has been a plan ever since for Son of Hypnos in that 5:40 at Galway on Monday. And then the big race on Monday is the Amateur Riders Handicap at 6:40. Again, Willie Mullins has the favourite here, too bossy for us. But the horse that makes most interest to me is War Rooms here, who's a horse who I think has been crying out for this kind of step up to 2 miles. He's been bubbling under. He went to Royal Ascot where the ground was just a bit lively and the 1.5 miles was probably too short for him. In hindsight, 2 miles with just a bit of cushion in the ground at Galway, and I think War Rooms is about to really burst into life this season. And Gerard Keane has gone to the trouble of booking Finian Maguire as well, probably the most preeminent amateur behind Patrick Mullins and Derek O'Connor you'd fancy over in Ireland. So he's of real interest in that 6:40 at Galway on Monday. That's it for the first day instalment of this preview. As ever, Dave Young will share his thoughts as well. So great to be involved with Which Bookie. Great to be involved this week. Obviously, Goodwood and Galway. Have a great week. Stay tuned for further videos as the week goes on.
Oi, oi, we've had Will's thoughts on day one of Goodwood, a couple of bonus selections for day one at Galway as well. That's racing on Monday. I'm going to run you through my thoughts through the card too. Doing a slightly different concept, as I'm sure you've noticed by now in this video, to try and get this out to you as quickly as possible. As Will talked about too, check out the whichbookie.co.uk website to find out what our final selections are for the races across this week. There's lots of action to get stuck into. Going to come thick and fast. We're going to get these videos out to you as quickly as we can with our early thoughts, and then you can get our final definitive selections on the website. The first race, we're looking at the 120, the Chesterfield Cup. This was a race where, from a profile perspective, I thought the English Oak would be of massive interest. He ticks all the boxes in here. I know that James Doyle for Wafnam would be having the choice of who he was going to ride. Christophe Soumillon has won plenty of races. He's a proper top jockey. He will be the 10th different jockey to partner this horse in what's going to be his 18th race. So while he hasn't necessarily achieved everything we expected of him after the Buckingham Palace Stakes last year, he's been tried in hard company. This is much easier. He's down to a mark of 97 now. He was on 108 after that win at Ascot last year. And I think it's worth remembering that Ascot this season in that same race, he was backed into 5-1 there in first time cheap pieces. They have been discarded. There's just lots of signs I would suggest that this horse could run a big race at a big price. He's 18-1 at the time of recording. That just looks grossly overpriced in my opinion. Onto the second race, the 155, the Vintage Stakes over 7 furlongs. There are loads in with chances here. One I thought was interesting to mention, probably to play for small stakes or maybe one for your place pots, was Vincenzo Perugia. Now, there's some really good horses in here. Anything with Aidan O'Brien, Ryan Moore, like favourites can go well in this race, so we've got to respect those. But I think Vincenzo Perugia is 20-1 plus, maybe a little bit bigger in this one. The runner-up from his Beverley win came out and won a handicap and hacked up in the handicap. Very cosy winner off of a mark of 76. This horse basically battered that horse in my opinion. I'd say this horse has got to be high 80s at least, which would put him a little bit off the mark that you'd need to win a Vintage Stakes, but it was only the second run for the horse. That was at 7.5 furlongs. He looked like he had plenty in the tank at the line. 2 runs at right-handed tracks, so a bit of a positive coming in here. And the first run, while the progression from first to second run looked big, the first run was at a trip that was just too inferior for this horse. So I just thought Vincenzo Perugia, for a horse that might be able to get on the front end, I think he's got a bit of a wide draw, can get in, might be able to get on the front end of these, lead a few of these through there, and he might be able to put a few of them into a difficult position, and then it's from there what's left under the bonnet. We don't know, and there may be better horses in the race, but just thought he looked overpriced and interesting, like I say, maybe from a place pot perspective, because it's going to be a big competitive week of racing at Goodwood. Third race, the Lennox Stakes. Sandrine was the last 3-year-old to win this race, and I think it was Garswood before that, going back to 2013. So that makes Jonquil a bit difficult to be over excited about at the front of the market, for all that he's got, formish claims in there. Kinross obviously goes well in this race. A couple of years ago he won it. Last year when Audience and Art Power, is it, or Fox Power, one of the power horses, they were on the front end, lots of stuff from the front end at Goodwood on that particular day. We're not coming back for them, and Kinross under Ross O'Ryan wasn't his best ride. He left him a bit too much to do, so you didn't get to see his real wet sail at the end as you can do. He's top price 4-1, I think bottom price 3-1. He's about where he should be. You'd probably look at him as a bit of a filthy each way bet, but I wouldn't recommend that in here. Audience is a very unreliable horse. Cheap pieces go on now. On his day, he could slam these like he did last year, but you wouldn't want to take anything single figures about him to do that. The risks are attached. The one that's semi-tempting me at the moment is Lake Forest. His Rose Hill win where he beat Lazat, that was over 7.5 over in Australia last November, not even that far ago, is by far the best form in this race in the last 9 months. When they ran him at Ascot over a mile, it wasn't quite his trip, but he still ran fine. They then turned him around quickly to run at York in a Group 3 where he was well supported, ran no race at all. It must have just come too soon for him. This is about his trip. He's still a bit unexposed at 7 furlongs as far as I'm concerned. He's a horse that will come from off the pace, probably. He's drawn near Jonquil and Kinross. I wonder if he could tuck in, and a lot of these horses are going to do this from the back, like Kinross will be ridden a bit more aggressively from the back this time. I wonder if Lake Forest might just get the perfect toe through the race, get some of these probably more experienced horses to take him through the race and put him in a position where actually he might be able to show that he could be the best horse in this race. So he was tempting. Can't remember exactly the top price that he is. He's somewhere around about the 7-1 mark, which looks about okay. But of course, Tony Bloom, if he gets backed in, then he could go short. So he's one to watch. The price is what's stopping me back, stopped me sort of steaming in and backing him at the moment. But he's on the radar. Like I said, there's lots of horses with chance in there, and it's a case of maybe I'm expecting a few to underperform, which might allow Lake Forest to win this. But the Rose Hill win still is a stand-up piece of form as far as I'm concerned in that race. The Goodwood Cup, the 305. Will talked about this one perfectly, that Scandinavia at the prices is the one that lures you. He gets a stone from Illinois. It feels like it's between that pair. You wouldn't want to back against Ryan Moore, really, would you? But maybe it's set up for a shock somewhere else in there. It's a no-play race from me, but Scandinavia feels the one to be on. But if the Ballydoor Battalion don't want it to win and they want Illinois to go and win, and it was them two battling it out, then we may be backing a loser anyway. Illinois might look a big price at 6-4, but it's a race to leave alone as far as I'm concerned. 345 handicap over 5 furlongs. There's 4 horses that tick lots of boxes, but the 2 of those 4 that do tick all the boxes. Ziggy's Missile at a huge 50-1. No Go's Dream at 33-1. That pair tick all the boxes. They may not be the best treated horses in the race on paper, but it's a 5 furlong handicap. If you get the breaks, you get on the right side of the track, you get the right pace. Like I say, you get that luck in running. The weight that you're carrying shouldn't make a difference as far as I'm concerned. So both of those look grossly overpriced. maybe ones for your play spot or some sort of perms. I'll probably have something small on those regardless whether they go in the column or not. The two other ones that are interesting as well is Cannon's House, who drops back to 5 furlongs after going over to Ireland. Still could be progressive. That's an interesting one, but 16's about that, has already been backed. And Mondasleeve, might be saying that one wrong, but it's a horse that would want to be up with the pace, if not forcing it. If the horse could do that, has a chance, 25 to 1 top price. If the horse doesn't do that, gets shuffled back early, it's $1 million. So risks attached, but 4, I think, is worth mentioning there. Nothing really for the maiden stakes in the 420. We'll move on to the last 2 races. Fillies handicap over 1 mile. The last race is a Fillies handicap over 6, but the 455, there's 2 that were on my early thought short list. Mara's Love has a good chance, but at 5 to 1, I'm not overly excited. That might change though if the price scuppers about a bit or I do some more work on the race. The other race runner who's really well on my radar on this is Queen of Atlantis. Does save some of her best runs for Ascot, but her last 3 handicap runs have all seen her finish second. She's up £6 from the first of that trio of good seconds in handicaps, but she is in much better shape now. She has been to Goodwood before. She didn't, albeit run overly well when you look at the form line of it, but it was against superior rivals. It was at 10 furlongs and not at a mile. So I thought Queen of Atlantis at a bigger price, around about 16 to 1, was also very interesting. And then the last race to close out day 1 at Goodwood, the 5:30, the 6 furlong Fillies handicap. 3 on my shortlist at this stage. They all come from the same race at Newmarket. Shallow won that race, up £1. Arabian Legend was second, stays off the same mark. And the 4th, Grey Dream Believer, is down £1. Not sure how I'd play this, or if I would, I might smallly perm those trio in a sort of forecast and tri-cast for the sake of it. Grey Dream Believer would be the one of the trio that at the moment is the biggest price and would tempt me in a little bit, but form in bigger fields is a big worry. The cheap pieces seemed to work fine last time out to see this horse down a bit. Doesn't have the £7 claim run again, so there's enough sort of question marks about that horse from a logical perspective to temper enthusiasm, but of that trio, I thought that was probably the one to take out of the race. So that's the thoughts for me for day 1. You can check out the whichbookie.co.uk website to find our thoughts on every single race for every single day this week. There's lots of action to get stuck into, and we'll be back every day this week as well for the Goodwood previews, and any thoughts we've got for Galway too, we will chuck in. So thank you guys for your support. If you like the video, drop a like on the video. If you haven't already and you're able to, and you want to subscribe to the channel, please click that subscribe button. That helps us out plenty. And if you got your best bet for Goodwood as well, you want to drop in the comments, I'd love to know your thoughts. So we'll catch you again tomorrow, and be lucky.